Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 33 of Break the Cycle. CouchStreams with me, your host, Joshua Smith. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday night. Thank you guys so much for choosing to stick around and watch the wonderful show that I have for you guys tonight. I'm very, very excited. But let's talk about some sponsors. Of course, we have Lorenzotti.coffee for all your delicious Italian coffee needs delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. And my main man, TopLobster.com. The guy who does all of my thumbnails, he draws all my guests, so everybody who comes on the show gets a wonderful hand-drawn rendition of themselves. He also made this awesome custom logo Break the Cycle hat. If it will come into focus there you go. Look at that. Also this great Wear the Mask shirt and this awesome Break the Cycle pillow that is now a part of the CouchStream set. You can bring this pillow home and have a part of my set on your couch whenever you need it by going to toplobster.com and using BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. And of course, anthemplanning.com for all of your emergency and crisis planning needs. Executive producers of the show, trust me, they can do something for you or your business. Check out anthemplanning.com and see what they can do for you today. Like I said, we have a great show for you tonight. I'm super, super stoked. This gentleman, I had been following him for a while on Facebook and was a big fan of a lot of his takes. And I didn't even realize that he was the guitarist for the Grammy-winning group Arrested Development and Fire in the Knife. He's also the 2019 Black Music Honors Award recipient. He is Mr. JJ Boogie. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, what's happening, Joshua?
Oh, no,
good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too, brother. I'm so stoked to have you on the show, man. We were just talking about this before we started. It's really funny to me because I used to stay home from school sick when I was a kid, and Arrested Development was like on MTV. There was like buzzworthy songs that they had on there and stuff. I mean, it was a big deal. And here it is, 26 years later, and I'm following this cool guy with this amazing beard on Facebook who's got great takes and cool pictures, and he's talking about the Mises Caucus every once in a while and liberty and all this shit. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is part of a band that has won a Grammy that I've listened to probably for almost 30 years, man. So it's
right on.
So people might not know, but just because you play in a big giant band doesn't mean that you have to hate liberty. So why don't you, as I do with most of my guests, what was your journey to the ideas of liberty, man?
Golly, that's a good question. Growing up in high school and all that, for me, it was like sex, drugs, rock and roll. Well, the drugs came later, but it was, women and music. I ate, slept, and breathed like music. And I was gigging, 15 years old. I'm playing in nightclubs. They're, 21 and up and doing all that. So, I really didn't pay attention to politics at all. I mean, I remember, when I first got my first car when I was, 16, flipping through some AM channels, just, landing on Rush, Limbaugh and him, bitching about Bill Clinton or something, but I didn't understand. I didn't pay any attention. So I was like, whatever. And I turned it off. He had like no effect on me, but I just remember hearing the voice. But it wasn't until 9/11 that I was just like, oh crap, what's going on in the world? Why is this happening? But it's weird because before that in the 90s, I actually went to a libertarian meetup in Atlanta. My one of the guitar players of my old bands invited me. I don't remember who spoke. I don't remember who was running or whatever at the time. It was like a local Atlanta thing. We went at Manuel's Tavern and had a couple beers, hung out, and that was it. And then I remember I bought a book like Libertarianism by David Boaz. I think
David Bowes from the Cato Institute.
He's a Cato guy, yeah. And I read it, and I wasn't like blown away or anything, but I liked the name Libertarian, it sounded cool to me, whatever. But it really wasn't until like after 9/11, I was like, started flipping the news on, like go between CNN and Fox and like whatever my roommate had at the time. He was paying for cable. So I watched that. And then I don't know how. Somehow I got turned on to Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman,
Sure.
and so I started reading some Thomas Sowell stuff, and I was just like, "Oh wow, this is amazing!" You know, it's like stuff on history, and then try to get into the economic stuff, and then I watched. I just started going down that rabbit hole, and then I was thinking, okay, I need to start backing up, like whoever the two party, you got the two party system. Like, I need to start backing up whoever's the most libertarian. And that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, neither one of them are libertarians, but who is the most libertarian if I had to choose? And then, sometimes in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, it's the Republican guy. He talks about, they campaign on libertarian ideas a lot, but they never govern on as libertarians. They govern like, Democrats, but so I did that for a while, and I was just like, this is useless, and just getting turned on to Ron Paul and the debates, and following him, and then somehow I started getting into when I started getting my iPhone, when I got my first iPhone and stuff, like, what's this app? It's like the podcast app. And I'm like, what is this? I used to just listen to iTunes as music. And then I started getting into like audiobooks. I was like, oh, I could get Thomas Sowell audiobook. Let me listen to it. Oh, let me get Keith Richards audiobook, listen to that. And the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I'm finding podcasts, and somehow I get turned on to, I don't know how. I must have got turned on to Tom Woods via social media. Somebody I was friends with saw him post something, and I was like, I'm going to listen to that. And then it just spiraled, Eric July and Lions of Liberty. And, Mark Claire was he was the first guy to ever interview me. On Lions of Liberty, it was the first time I ever was interviewed on a libertarian show, so like, I was grateful for that, and then Thaddeus Russell had me on Unregistered.
Yeah, I watched that episode.
Yeah, that was super cool. And, everybody's just super cool who I met. And, I talked to, just getting into the Mises group on Facebook. And I had a couple guys like hit me up. It might've been Michael Heiss asking me if I would ever be interested in being like a delegate and stuff. And I'm like, I didn't know anything about the inner workings of any of that stuff. And I'm like, what does that do? Who? I was like, sure. What can I do? And then he told me some of the things. I'm like, well, man, I can't commit to going to the conventions, because a lot of times I'm on the road, sure. So I was like, I just kind of was like, well, can't do that, but now, and then I just started diving in. I really got interested in economics, and then just the philosophy behind it. I mean, I got a whole stack of books: is Human Action, Man, Economy, State, Democracy, The God That Failed, the Machiavellians, Economics in One Lesson, Anatomy of the State. I got all this stuff right here. I just got Malice's new book too, Anarchist Handbook, which is cool.
#1 bestseller on Amazon right now. Can you believe that? Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah.
I love it, dude. I mean, like, as someone who's been fighting in this realm for the last, I don't know, decade.
At
least since 2007, I'd say.
You've been in the thick of it, like really in the thick of it.
Yeah, I mean, campaigns and working in actual political action, and to see how far, especially even just anarchist thought in general. I mean, to see that the Anarchist Handbook is the #1 selling book on Amazon right now just blows my mind. I mean, it's absolutely mind blowing stuff. I couldn't be happier for the movement. I couldn't be happier for Michael Malice. He's gonna be so much more successful now than he was already when he was already so successful. So it's really, really cool to see, man. But shifting gears a little bit to the music side of things, you're an amazing musician. I've after finding out who you were, I've watched tons of videos, and like I said, I watched your interview with Thaddeus Russell. I'm a big fan of Thaddeus as well.
Yeah.
In the last year, we've really been handed this tyranny on a silver platter. Right? I mean, it shut down our entire way of life, and I believe that a lot of that was intentional. I think they want us kind of beaten and broken. And I've always said that the state only exists to grow its power. The greatest trick they ever pulled on us was making us think that they care about us. They don't. Nothing they do is in the interest of the betterment of society, the betterment of the individual, the betterment of your family. It's none of it is because of that. It's always about growing their own power. But you guys actually, you personally actually gigged through my wife
and I. I was in let's see, that February 29th was my last gig with Arrested Development 2020. We were in Vegas, and Monica Perez came out. She flew out from LA with her husband and a friend. Yeah, she's great. She's a good buddy of mine, and I love her show as well. And so they came out to the show. That was our last show before everything started shutting down. So I'm hanging out with her after our performance, just shooting shit, and hanging out. And then we say goodbye and come home, and everything's shut down. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, they're serious? And I'm like, this is so coordinated. Like, I knew it immediately. I'm like, this is not real. Like, I'm not saying like COVID's fake, but like their response it was so over the top. And, it was just like, okay, it was just obvious, what was going on to me. But what was real to me was, Atlanta shutting down, all my gigs canceling. Arrested Development was supposed to go to, excuse me, United Arab Emirates 2 weeks after the Vegas gig. And then after that, we were supposed to go to Europe for a bunch of gigs. All gone. All that money is like, that's my bread and butter. The local gigs is just small. That's just for like chump change. Like, I get some decent gigs around here, but anyways, so for the first like 3 weeks, we started doing like all of my friends did with like live streams, and we hated it. I'm like, I can't do this. Right. I'm like, I can't do these live streams. I need to get with people. And I started looking around on Facebook and calling around, and like I found this like a brewery like an hour and a half outside Atlanta north, like out in the country. But it was like this little downtown area that was real cute, So it was like everybody from the country comes to the little small downtown area. They got like a courthouse, a subway, and a brewery. And they could pull a food truck. And it was Revival Brewery, this small little family-owned place. Is beautiful. I loved it. The owners are super cool. And they're like, hey, we're staying open. You want to come perform? We're like, yeah. So they started hiring us to come out and play. And there was like families there, adults, kids. We would bring our own kids. We started doing that. And they were about the only ones that were hiring. We'd do that. And then we'd find one other place, a winery that had like a big outdoor thing, so we just started doing acoustic gig. Literally, it wasn't, I didn't have the band. It was just me and my wife on acoustic guitars going through our little PA, making a little money, but I didn't care. I just want to perform and feel normal and it was like, it just helped me cope with the stress of having 2 young children and then the world falling apart, and then after that, we started finding other places that like, out in the sticks of Georgia, they were like, hey, we're having bands too. Musicians come on out. And then there was a couple places where like, man, we're doing a full band. We'll bring the whole freaking band. Like, we're doing it up. And they still like, there were a lot of places where still like they catered to, everybody's wearing masks, like, except for the band and, social distancing whenever they can. But there were other places that weren't doing that at all. There was other breweries that were like, people would walk in with masks. As soon as they got inside, everybody took them off, and you got college kids and adults and everybody all crammed in, partying hard. Like, hey man, life is stressful and we're coming in here to blow off steam, and, it's just like, we want to feel normal. And every few months I'd go get tested for antibodies. I never got sick. I take that back. I got sick when I got home from Vegas. I was sick for almost a month. My boss Speech was sick as well. But a few months after that, I went and got tested for antibodies, and it was negative. So it wasn't, unless the test was wrong, I don't know. Sure. But I didn't have any antibodies. So I was like, okay, well, it was just a regular cold or whatever, even though I was going through like big international airports. And then, but we just kept gigging, man. And it was awesome. It kept me sane. And you know what? This year I grew as a musician as well, because I put down my electric. I usually play electric, and I was like, I'm going to play acoustic more. And it's a different beast, you know? So I don't have the sustain of my tube amp and my pedals. It's like I have to do more with my hands. It forced me to play differently. So it really, I'm grateful in one sense that I grew as a guitarist. I became a much better guitar player than I was before, in a short amount of time. I'm always striving to get better, so that was cool. But yeah, we made it happen. And then, so there's still places, some of the places that we play in Atlanta, I've gotten emails to where like, you got to show a vaccine that you've been vaccinated, or you have a negative COVID test to come back and play here, like downtown Atlanta. I'm just like, Jesus, you gotta be kidding me, Yeah. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to play that place anymore, but to be honest though, I'm not anti-vax, but I didn't want the COVID vax because it was just too new. There's no long-term tests, and the way everything went down with the way the governments were just doing all these power grabs worldwide and shoving this stuff down our throats. I was just like, I do not want this. And, but it found out that I had to get the jab, or I would lose my gig with Arrested Development, basically because we're getting ready to travel. And the, our tour manager's like, nobody else wanted it either. They're like, we don't want it either, but we got to start working because we're all hurting for money,
Yeah, I was gonna talk to you about that, because I know you guys are gearing up for an international tour, and it's got to be. I mean, so I don't think a lot of people understand how many industries were affected by this shit, right? Like, and musician is probably one that has completely fallen by the wayside to most normal people that don't travel for their band for a living. They probably never even really understood that was being affected. Although I will tell you that as far as live stream music goes, I got like the coolest live stream event during this was Post Malone doing a complete Nirvana set live on a live stream, which was just and it was like Travis Barker playing the drums and like a couple other famous people. It was insane, and he did it all in a dress, which was perfect. But so there was some cool things that come out of it. But I mean, the music industry was just grinded to a halt. I mean, live shows are bread and butter now. Live shows and merch sales. You don't make your money off of selling your music anymore. It doesn't work like that. The internet has completely destroyed that. As a musician who's never made money playing music, I understand that you make your money from playing shows and selling shows and selling merch. That's where you make your money. So it's got to be hurtful. But I know that you guys are gearing up for an international tour. Where are you going?
We'll be going to this particular tour in September. Well, we're doing a local show, Alzheimer's Festival, 11th Alzheimer's Festival in Atlanta at the Tabernacle on August 28th. But starting next week, we're going to have 3 weeks of rehearsals. We're going to be hammering out like 10 to 6 every day. 3 weeks. I mean, we got a new album called Don't Fight Your Demons that we'll be promoting for this tour. And we got a couple shows in Canada. And then doing a couple of US states, and then September is when we're like heading over to Europe. We'll be heading to London first, getting like an Airbnb there, and then we'll have a van, and we'll be shooting out, going to France, going to Germany, Austria, I can't remember all. Basically, when we're doing about 30 something shows, maybe 35, 36 shows. I haven't seen the full schedule yet. Like a lot of night after night stuff. Last time we did it, we would do like 10, 11 gigs in a row and then have one day off and then go back out and it's like, I don't know how the vocalists do that, but but yeah, we'll be all over Europe. Hammering it out.
And a lot of those places are going to require that you have a vaccine, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I was so pissed, man. I had to think, I'm like, okay, should I just quit my dream gig, and go get a job at UPS or Amazon. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, where do I, I'm like, what should I do? I'm like, I do not want to, I can't, I don't want to, I told the nurse, I was like, I do not consent to this. She's like, what? You have to sign. Well, the forms are online. I had to do the thing online, and it doesn't say, like, you have to check this box in order to proceed. I'm like, it doesn't give you an option to, like, tell us how you feel about
right.
what you're about to do, So I had to click the box in order to get the appointment. And then I went in, and she was about to stick me, and I was like, is there any way we could not do this and say we did? And I'm like, hold out some money. I'm like, she's like, oh, I can't do that. She's like, I can't, I'll get fired. I'm like, man, I'm like, this is coercion. She's like, what? I'm like, I'm being coerced. I'm like, I didn't want this. I'm like, the only way I could do this, I'll lose my dream job.
Right.
It's either do it or lose my dream job that I've been working. These are my family. It's not just a job. It's, Speech was in my boss who founded Arrested Development. He was in my wedding. He's been a spiritual mentor. He's been a family mentor. He's been he's taught me how to be a better husband, a better man, a better father, the whole nine. Like he's one of my best friends. So we've traveled the world. We've traveled all over the place, all over the world together for years, And so it's just like, I can't give up my family, like that, So I had to think, because I wasn't afraid of getting COVID. Even when everything first went down, I'm like, they should have kept everything open. I would have still toured during the whole pandemic. I would have gotten on planes. I was not afraid at all. I was more afraid of getting the vaccine than actually getting COVID. As strange as that may sound, but I got to the point where I was like, okay, if I trust God enough to go out and travel and not be worried, I know that I could get COVID, whatever. I just wasn't afraid of it. My cousin almost died of it, but he had some other health issues as well, but I was just like, okay, I trust God that I'm not going to die of it, so maybe I should trust him with getting this vaccine as well. I'm like, either way, I may get the vaccine and still get COVID.
Sure.
Because that happened with 5 of the New York Yankees. They got the J&J shot and they all got tested. They all got COVID afterwards.
Yeah. What vaccine house are you from, man?
The J&J.
You got
JJ Boogie,
Oh yeah, there you go. You got hey, at least you got a little coolness factor there, right? Yeah. And, well, that's the funny thing. Like, so the J&J, what I understand, the J&J is more like an actual traditional vaccine. It's not an mRNA. So,
yeah,
but a lot of people had problems with that one too. But a lot of people had problems with COVID too. We are definitely not getting it in our house, but my job has been very clear that they won't require it. I'm lucky enough to live in a state with a governor who has basically said, she said they'll use she'll use legislative action or an executive order to make illegal COVID passports, which That's is really awesome. Cool. She actually just made mask mandates illegal in the state as well.
Wow.
So Iowa's been pretty cool on all this stuff. I don't think, nobody really talks about Iowa for anything anyways. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's been pretty wild, but yeah, man, that sucks. And it is coercion, and it's really kind of goes to show you like how much the government plays a role in your life, because if the government, hadn't said, hey, you can't do these things if you don't get this shot, then nobody would require the shot.
Right. Yeah, totally. And I'm seeing like musician friends posting this stupid meme with a venue signs like the vaccine is the gateway drug back to live music. I'm like, are you serious?
Dude, I'm like, Punk Rock Bowling posted that. Punk Rock Bowling posted that. That blew my mind. Like, I'm a big fan of Punk Rock Bowling, right? Like, it's every year, like Las Vegas, some of the greatest punk bands in the world go and play there. And I'm going, you guys are like literally the anti-establishment music genre.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, we're going to do exactly what the government tells us so that we can play live shows again. And it's like, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. When I got the vaccine that night, my arm was sore. I was tired. The next day I woke up with cold chills and 102 fever. And then all day I had a fever. And I was just shivering on the couch. And then that night, thank God my wife was home. The next night, probably around 7 or 8 at night, my fever skyrocketed even higher. And I was so dizzy. I started getting nauseous. I couldn't see. I couldn't sit up. And I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom. I couldn't walk. And my body was on fire. My wife was like, oh my gosh, she ran to the kitchen, got ice water and a rag and was putting it all over my body. And I was just delirious. I was about to say, like, call 911, like, let's call 911. Cause I'd never had a fever like that before. You know, my kids are kind of freaking out and, it was bad. It was the worst fever I ever had. And the next couple of days I was just really tired. But that following Saturday, my entire back broke out in hives. Like top of my back, both sides, all the way down to the top of my butt was just bumps, itching, like just flaring. It's like, and I had like some shortness of breath. And I'm like, okay, do I need to go to the ER? And I had to take antihistamines. I'm putting calamine lotion all over my back. And I'm just like all messed up. I'm like, this is jacked up, And then for the next several weeks, I was just really just fatigued. So my symptoms were like, it wasn't like just 2 or 3 days. It was, 1 week of really weird stuff, bad stuff, and then just fatigue. And that was about 3 weeks ago. And I'm just now starting to feel like, okay, I could exercise again. Like, I was feeling great up until then. I was like running and after I got the jab, it was just like, it put me down, man.
Yeah, that's not normal, man. That's not something that you know what I mean? That's not life-saving, I don't think. You know what I mean? In my opinion, like, I'm a nobody. I'm not a scientist. I do have I did get a certificate in nursing. I went to school for a very low level LP in nursing, where we had to study vaccines and pharmacology and trials. I mean, we had a whole class on vaccine trials and drug trials and how they work. And so when I talk about it, on Twitter and stuff, people are like, oh, what does this guy know? Well, I know how trials work. And these particular drugs have never had a viable second or third phase trial. They just haven't. Yeah. They've never made it out of animal. This particular one has never made it into animal trials, so they didn't even test it on animals first. But mRNA vaccines, the specific ones, had been tried, not for this coronavirus, but for the
previous ones.
Stuff, the initial SARS the first SARS. So
the
first SARS. They used these vaccines in the first SARS in animal trials on ferrets, and none of the ferrets survived. So I'm taking that information in, and I'm going, as a healthcare professional who actually went to school for this shit, there's no way me and my family are going to take this thing until there's some actual, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, I have a friend that works for the CDC in Atlanta, and I called her up. She's like, I'm not taking it.
Yeah. Oh, I know so many nurses and doctors.
She's not even thinking. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah. And she's no right winger by any stretch of the imagination, or she's no Trump supporter or QAnon, nothing like that,
Sure.
She's just, but she had some other reasons. Because she felt like they hadn't done enough tests on Black women that were her age.
True.
It was mostly white men and women, but
there's some difference there. And look, the government hasn't been the best to the Black community when it comes to medical stuff. Let's just be honest. I had this whole debate with somebody online recently where they're like, oh, well, yeah, they've lied to us about healthcare stuff in the past, but it has been a long time since they did it, and I immediately went to, my brain always immediately goes to the Tuskegee experiments, because I mean, they literally were giving Black men and women syphilis and then telling them that they were treating it, but they were actually never treating it, and they were studying their decline and their death through syphilis. And he goes, yeah, but that was back in the 40s. I said, it lasted through the 70s, dude.
Right.
It was a 30-year experiment that they lied to the black community, and this is all readily available. I mean, it's been admitted to. And then there's been plenty of other shit since then. But
in Africa, they would go in and test the stuff out on poor kids in Africa first.
sure. And the Bill Gates and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had a lot to do with that. And that's one of the reasons why so many people don't trust Bill Gates when it comes to healthcare. But also, I have more education in healthcare and pharmacology than Bill Gates does. And Bill Gates is telling us that we have to listen to him when it comes to medical stuff. And I'm not by any means, a specialist,
Right.
But I also know a lot of doctors and nurses. I mean, I've worked in healthcare on and off for 10 years. And I know a lot that aren't getting it as well, and so it sucks to have normal people who don't want to have this, who do want to have bodily autonomy, be forced into getting it to do the things that they need to do to feed their families.
Yeah. Well, after a year of crazy election and everybody screaming at each other on social media, and then having all these accounts being shut down and silenced, now I get very little. Like, I feel more amped up now. I'm ready to fight now. Like, I'm ready to argue, and but everybody's burnt out and afraid,
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, that's what they wanted. They wanted us beaten down. They wanted us black and blue.
People are beaten down.
Yeah.
Demoralized, dehumanized, the whole nine.
You take your jobs, you take your socializing, you cover your face, you take our this or you'll die. And you're telling me stories about playing in bars, crowded bars and stuff, and the normal blue-pilled person who believes everything that they hear on mainstream media and everything that the government tells them would say there's no way that you did all that stuff because you'd be dead.
Right.
And this is for a virus with a 99.97% survival rate for anybody under 65. They think every time you tell them that you don't want the vaccine or you don't want to wear your mask or this or that or this or that, they're like, good luck, you're going to die. It's like, no, I'm probably not going to die.
Yeah.
So it's really crazy to see the social engineering and the social conditioning that has taken place over the last year and how far that stretches. I mean, from the everyday blue collar working guy to the musician to the, it never really stops, man. It's pretty insane.
Yeah.
And I talked about this on Dave Smith's show recently. It's going to take an entire generation of people to wash out the social conditioning that has taken place in 1 year. There's no doubt about it.
Yep. Yeah. My kids have some of their best friends who are like, they haven't seen in a year in person. They've only been able to chat via FaceTime, and the parents, they still won't come over unless they're all vaxxed and we're all vaxxed. We're all social, and then I have other friends that we're going to their house every few weeks, and the kids get together and it's like a normal night, Taco Tuesday, we're hanging out. They got the pool in the back, and it's normal life. Like, I want my kids to experience normal life, like not this new normal. I don't accept the new normal. There's nothing normal about it. There's nothing. It's not like some natural evolution of that's cultural thing that was natural. It was forced, and so we try to keep our kids as normal as possible with their life. Of course, they're homeschooled, so they don't, it's a little bit, they're not going to school like our neighbor, she's walking to the bus at 7:30 in the morning and getting back at like 4 p.m. Our kids will wake up at 9:30 and then they're done with their school in 2 or 3 hours, depending,
Sure.
and then they're exploring and playing and doing fun things the rest of the day,
Yeah, it's been pretty wild for us too, because my fiance she was a homeschooler for a long time, and so she's got a lot of homeschooling friends, and all of the people in the homeschooling community are like, this is all bullshit. You know what I mean? So they're all like letting their kids play, and nobody's getting sick. Everybody's fine. And but now all the schools have reopened here. They reopened several months ago, and now the schools aren't allowed to mandate masks here anymore. So we don't send our kids in masks because it's stupid to have your child in a fucking mask.
Yeah.
But anyways, switching gears a little bit again, you brought up Speech a little bit, and Speech is a pretty interesting dude, man. Like that guy, you know, and am I didn't read about this, so I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but Arrested Development winning a Grammy, that they were the first, like one of the first hip hop groups to win a Grammy.
They were the first hip hop group to win Best New Artist.
Best New Artist, that's what it was. Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That they weren't the first to win a Grammy, but and I do believe they were the first hip hop band to have like men and women, you know, and then they had an elder, Baba OJ. And another thing that was cool about I think they were like the second hip hop band to have second or third to have like blend live instrumentation with samples and turntables and stuff. So that's, you know, that's always cool too. But yeah, just yeah. So they were trendsetters back then for sure. We did a show with the Black Eyed Peas in 2008 in Jerusalem, right at the base of Mount Zion. It was a peace concert. So they had like Jewish bands and Palestinian bands playing together, and it was for peace, right? So it was really cool. All these young people there trying to promote peace amongst Israelis and the Palestinians. And then they had a couple headlining American acts. You know, it was us and the Black Eyed Peas, and just hanging out with Fergie and Will.i.am and the whole crew backstage. And Will, I'm standing there, and him and Speech are just talking about old times. You know, they knew each other back in the day because they used to open up for Arrested Development when they were first coming up. And Will was like telling Speech, he's like, man, I used to want to be you, man. We wanted to be you guys, man. We were like, you know, we like based everything off of you, what you were doing. And, you know, it just meant a lot to Speech. And it was cool for me, you know, like, man, because now we're open for them, you know, because they were, you know, one of the biggest bands in the world.
For sure.
Yeah. So it was, you know, so it was just cool to see them give us props, you know, or give my boss props and for what he did and what he started and the vibe of the band, that, you know, the positivity and stuff and the joy in hip hop. You don't really get to see much joy in hip hop anymore, hardly at all. Like our show is a celebration, you know, it's not like, you know, a lot of these newer hip hop artists, everything's just so serious and just monotone. There's no audience participation, you know, that kind of thing. So, but
yeah, the Arrested Development's definitely a production.
Yeah.
Sure. And the instruments were always cool. And, you know, for me back in the 90s, like I said, listening to the band, you know, I was listening to, at that time, I had moved on from just like listening to Tupac and Biggie and stuff like that. And I was actually listening to like Bay Area rap, like RBL Posse, and because I really liked hip hop growing up too, and a lot of California gangster rap, SIBO, Spice One, stuff like that. So it was kind of cool to see this hip hop group that was doing this really jammy, like jive, like kind of bluesy, funk,
bluesy, like, very bluesy and
cool
funky,
yeah, man. And so it's got to be so cool to be a part of that, man. Definitely. And then so the Black Honors Award as well. That's pretty big deal, right?
Yeah, it was super cool. We get, you know, I got called to do it, and we did the whole red carpet thing and the interviews, and it was in this nice theater here in Atlanta, and they had I didn't even know what all was going on. I just knew we were being honored. So they brought out several artists that covered some of our hits, and then they called us up to the stage. So we all walk up, and it's all televised, and we walk up, Speech does his speech, and then Ishi, she says her things, and then we go backstage and we're hanging out, and then, you know, they walk us back down to our seats. And then I didn't go to the after party. I don't drink anymore. I've been sober since 98. And so I don't, you know, it's rare that I go to after parties, you know. So, but one of the other members of the group, or actually three members of the group, One Love, and then Tasha and Frida, they went. So they're hanging out, and he sends me a text later that night. He's like, yo, man, he's like, they got a trophy for you. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, they got a trophy for you. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And so sure enough, they mailed it to me, and I opened it up, and it's this beautiful big gold trophy. I think it's over there on the shelf, but it's heavy, and it had my name inscribed in it. It was Black Music Honors, and I was so honored because I grew up on my dad played in interracial bands back in the 60s, and he used to play in interracial clubs. He played soul music. He was a saxophone player. So all the records that I grew up with are like Motown and Sly and the Family Stone and Earth, Wind and Fire. And, he had classic rock stuff too, but it was a lot of funk and soul music, Marvin Gaye. So I'm like, I grew up looking at all these records. I'm like, these are all my heroes, So like, touring with Arrested Development, it's like the closest thing in the world to me touring with Sly and the Family Stone, Sure. Because we're doing that funk, that blues and soul, it's all blended together, and it's, and there's men and women in the group, and it's interracial, and so, well, at least it is now that I'm in the band.
Sure. It wasn't maybe not in the beginning. But.
Not in the beginning. Yeah, well, actually, speech is a little bit, he's got like 10% Irish, he found out doing the DNA test. So he's got a little bit in there. But, so it was just a super huge honor to have that and for them to recognize me as part of the group, because they could have, a lot of times we'll get called to do interviews and they're like, oh, we just want original members, sure. Or whatever. And I love all the original members, but I've been in the band longer than all of them except for speech. Me and One Love is the other rapper. We've been in the group since since 98. The band was together from 91 to 94, and they broke up in 94. And I started working with Speech in 98. In 2000, I co-wrote a song on their reunion album. Speech, he did release a solo album that blew up in Asia, and then it started to have a demand for Arrested Development again from his solo career. Sure. So people were like, man, why don't you get bands? So he got a hold of Ishii and Razadon, the original drummer, and Baba OJ. And then he heard me. I was playing this African guitar riff. It was me trying to play this African guitar riff that I had, my version of it. And he's like, what is that? I'm like, man, it's just this standard little thing. He's like, let's use it in the studio, man. We're writing a new record. And he brought me into Tree Sound Studios, beautiful facility. I was nervous and, coming in, there's, Isaiah on bass. He's got this deep voice. He's like, what up, JJ, And so I got to go in there and teach them the parts, the drummer Omar, who later toured with Mary J. Blige and Outkast. So I'm like with these great musicians, and I taught them.
Side note, when I was in high school, I used to tell everyone that Mary J. Blige was my girlfriend, by the way. But please go ahead. Sorry.
I thought I saw y'all together. Yeah. So, and that was the beginning of me like writing for the band. And then I was like, oh man, I'm going to work on some more stuff. And then I got into production, and producing beats and mixing and mastering the records and, and stuff like that. It's been phenomenal. So, but it's been great.
Nice, dude. So you guys got a new album coming out?
Yeah, it's out. It's called Don't Fight Your Demons.
It's already out.
Yeah, and then my boss Speech also has a solo album out called Expansion, and I'm playing. I did a lot of work on that as well. So two new records, and then my wife and I have a band called Fire and the Knife, and that's the roots rock type thing. She plays acoustic guitar. We have a full band as well. We do acoustic gigs, and we're recording a record right now. Her original stuff, and I'm just producing like around what she writes and stuff. So two different totally vibes. I love it. I love both of them though.
Well, that's cool, man. Yeah. I mean, you get the best of two different worlds, right?
Yeah.
That's super cool, man. I'm super stoked for you guys. I definitely I'm gonna have to check out the new. I didn't realize the new album was out already, so I'm gonna have to listen to it.
Yeah, and then another thing that's been going on that it's really been really cool is I've been starting to make music for a lot of libertarian podcasts.
Right. Yeah, you were telling me about that. Which podcasts have you done some music for?
Well, Propaganda Report with Monica Perez. She was the first person to ask me to write intro music, outro music. So if you've ever heard her show, that intro music and the outro music, I produced both those. I did some music for Thaddeus Russell's offshoot shows that he loves. He was like, man, I like it better than my registered you know. I'm like, dude, use it for your show, man. It's nothing. Change is good, you know. And then started talking with Daniel McAdams with the Liberty Report with Ron Paul.
Oh man.
And he said they're getting ready to do a new set. They're doing a whole new thing and blah, 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 in the new studio. And so I'm thinking, he's like, whenever we get in the truck, you know, we're riding somewhere. He's like, Ron likes to listen to Frank Sinatra, you know. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm thinking, well, I don't really play jazz, you know, and I came up with something that was very conservative, like 70s news intro. It was it was good, but it was a little too like Johnny Carson, you know. And I sent it to Pete Quinones. He's like, yeah, it sounds very newsy, like very 70s newsy. I'm like, yeah. And then Daniel's like, yeah, I like it. He goes, I'm not sure if that's it or not. So I went back. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do something super high energy, like something that's kind of over the top with more urgency. So I made this other beat and I sent it to, I'm thinking, yeah, Ron's not going to like this. And sent it to Daniel. Daniel is like, man, this is interesting. And then he's got 2 teenage kids, son and a daughter, and he's like called them into the room, and they're classically trained musicians. And he played it for them, and they were like, we love that. That's awesome. And he's like, I think this is it. So they haven't incorporated it into the show yet because they got new video guys. They're working it all out. So, but I'm so excited. I hope it all works out. So so with Ron Paul, Liberty Report, and I've done some stuff with a Liberty Lockdown guy. I forget his name. Clint.
Oh, Clint. Yeah, Clint.
But he ended up needing something else. But I did some work with him. But he needed something that was closer to what he already had.
The hip hop.
I gave him some hip hop stuff, but it was a different sound. He wanted something that was more closer to what he had. But it was cool working with him. And then I did the soundtrack, the film score for the Monopoly on Violence documentary. Have you seen that yet?
You did that all, huh? Of course, yeah. I've seen that. If you guys, and if anybody watching the show has not seen the Monopoly on Violence, which was created by a bunch of wonderful people that I didn't even know JJ Boogie was part of, but also Pete Quinones and my friend Vinny Marshall, who's been one of my best friends forever. Chris Kofer. Vinny Marshall. If you guys aren't familiar with Vinny Marshall, he's been one of my best friends since like the 9th grade. We played in bands and stuff together too. So it was
cool.
A lot of really, really good people involved in the Monopoly on Violence. It's on Amazon. You can watch it.
And that was my first time doing a film score for any documentary or movie. And so it went really well. I loved doing it. And we got along great with all the guys. And they're working on another documentary on like the history of police, I think, or something like that.
The history of police brutality or whatever.
Yeah. So they've already asked me to do that movie as well. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. So just getting those
cool, man.
Totally.
How did I not know that was? Now I feel like.
Well, probably because on the credits they use my real name instead of my stage name.
Probably what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it said Jason Reichert on the credits, and instead of JJ Boogie, which is fine. I told them to do that. I wasn't sure what to do when they asked me. I just like, should I do Jason JJ Boogie, or I'm like, that's gonna be too long. I was like, yeah, just use my real name, whatever. So, but yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. That's a good bit of information to know for sure, man. So
been freaking out all my normie friends, man, with all this libertarian
I bet
and stuff now.
Well, and working in the music industry, I mean, so many people are either blue pilled or so far left that it's gotta be hard talking about it with people that you work with sometimes.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I can't imagine, dude.
I've piped down so much on my personal page on Facebook. Most of my conversations are in the private groups, but every once in a while I'll drop some gems. There's some great memes that I'm like, I gotta go and gen pop with this one, man. And I'm just gonna go ahead and, because part of me is like, I don't want to lose gigs. I don't want to lose work by rubbing these people the wrong way. Cause I'm friends with so many, the guitar player for, Sheryl Crow and, the Zac Brown band and, all these Blackberry Smoke and all these people and I've gotten private message where like, man, I love what you're doing, man. Keep it up. But they won't say things out loud. And then there's some of these people who are like, dude, you're crazy. Like, I don't I'm not with you on that, you know. I'm like, it's all good, man. I still love you. You still my bro, right? You know.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate part of being in that business, man. You know, the it's hard to be brave when you know you might lose your dreams. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably a problem along the mainstream entertainment industry in general. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that feel like us that they can't be brave because they don't want to.
Right. That's true. But man, you just think like everybody is I mean, from the day we're born, we are completely inundated with propaganda, like nonstop everywhere we go. And it's 1,000 times worse now, you know? So it's like, you know, it's kind of hard to break through all that, you know?
No, I agree. And yeah, I mean, the information age has made a lot of people very stupid. I mean, just for a lack of a better term, it's made a lot of people really stupid. I mean,
yeah,
it's great. We have music at the tips of our phone, at our fingertips all the time. We have all kinds of great information that we can read all the time, but a lot of it is manipulated and made to make you feel and elicit certain reactions. And I believe that it's used to pit us against each other constantly. And,
totally.
But
it's the old divide and conquer tactics, and the rule they've been using for thousands of years.
But that's one of the cool things about music, man. I mean, and thank you for doing it. You guys transcend that bullshit. You know what I mean? Music is really one thing that's still, even today in this chest beating, tribalistic team sport era of political thought and political action, music can still bring us together in one form or another. And so I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So besides the tour and the new albums, I mean, what's next for JJ Boogie, man? What else you got going on?
Oh gosh, what else is going on? Man, I'm just raising my kids, man. Homeschooling, trying to make my wife happy, pay the bills, mow the lawn.
All hard stuff.
Yeah. Pick up the dust bunnies from our Australian Shepherd dog and the 2 cats. And no, I'm just working on new music. I mean, even though we have new albums out now with my boss, he's already writing stuff for the next album. So we're already working on the album after the one that we're promoting now. It's awesome. He's so prolific. He's always, when he hits those inspirational times, man, it just oozes out of him. And then it's infectious. You know, I'm working on guitar parts here. You know, my wife is writing new songs. We're working on her new songs. So we're just constantly writing, you know, but it's going to be, I'm excited and a little nervous about going out on the road because, I only wear masks when I have to, like if I'm in a place where they're absolutely sticklers about it. So, I'm kind of freaking out about having to wear a mask on a flight for 9 hours to London, Heathrow,
stoked about it either.
Because I'm claustrophobic, and shoot, man, something caught on my face for that long. I'm gonna have to, eat my food very slow.
Eat your food very slow. Always have a coffee.
Yeah,
that's one thing that we can learn from Ted Cruz. Always have a coffee on an airplane, and you're good to go. Yeah, we're going. I don't know if you saw that we were raising money to go to Disney World.
Yes, yeah.
And we're actually almost at the goal. We're less than $1,000 away now.
Wow.
And so we started booking the trip. We've got it booked. It's going to be in October, like 11th through the 18th. We're not telling the kids at all. We're going to get them on an airplane, fly them there, get them on a bus, and then get them on the little shuttle to go to Disney. Be like, we're going to a map store, but it actually has to go through the. My mom did this to me, my sister and I, when we were little kids. We actually has to go through the parking lot of Disney World, but we're not going there. We're going to the map store, and then it's going to stop at Disney World, of course, and we're going to take them to Disney World, and I'm going to videotape all their reactions and stuff because I want all the wonderful people who have helped our children experience this to see what happens when they get to do this.
Right. And you guys are flying out like 37 children, right?
Yeah, I think there's the 30. I lost track. No, we have 7. There's 7. One of them is actually my grandchild.
Yes, that's awesome.
But yeah, it's definitely, it's been challenging, but all of us on an airplane wearing masks the entire time would be absolute hell, and it's only a 3-hour flight, so I can only imagine 9 hours. And so the reason why I stopped wearing masks, and I haven't talked about this a lot, but at first when it started happening, I was wearing masks. We had to wear a mask. Everyone was telling us to wear a mask. Work was telling us to wear a mask. I got sick like 3 times. I got I got bacterial lung infections. I kept getting sick from the mask, and people kept going, well, you're supposed to change your mask, or you have to wash your mask. I'm like, I'm using different masks every day. Every single day, I'm not using the same masks, and I'm getting these bacterial lung infections. In fact, I still am having lung issues because of the masks that I wore a year ago.
Right.
And people, I don't think people understand that because they're like, well, doctors or nurses can do it and do this and that and this and that, so you should be able to do it. It's like, we're not all the fucking same, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hey, man, that's pretty much the end of the show. But where can people find JJ Boogie? Where should people be supporting you at and Arrested Development and your wife's and yours band? Where can
we Arrested Development is adtheband.com. And then or you can just type in arresteddevelopmentmusic.com. It'll take you as well. And you can get the new album and past albums that I co-produced and played on and all that. Check out our tour dates. Come see us live. And then you can find me, JJ Boogie, on Instagram and Twitter. And my wife's band that we have, Fire and the Knife, we're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. So check that out. We're gonna be releasing some new music this year, and we're on Instagram as well. Always promoting shows. So there's a local guy that owns a one of the breweries that I found out was in the Mises Caucus, Mises group on Facebook, and he's one of the owners. And we're like, oh, so I'm like, so cool, man. Yeah. So, but yeah, check us out.
Cool, man. Hey, well, like I said, I really appreciate what you're doing. Love the band. I think you're an awesome guy, and I look forward to everything you're going to be doing in the future. Thank you so much for coming on Break the Cycle, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, have a good one. All right, guys, another episode of Break the Cycle in the books. JJ Boogie is just the coolest guy. Please go follow him. If you've never heard of Arrested Development in like the last 30 years, you should probably get on that. They're awesome, amazing stuff. Really, really cool. So go and follow them, follow him, find him and his wife's band, support this man. He is a national treasurer. Let's see. Make sure you check out lorenzotti.coffee for all your delicious Italian coffee needs delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. Of course, toplobster.com just announced today he will be on the show the day after the 4th of July. We will be having a day after the 4th of July special with me and my man, Top Lobster. You can also get this awesome custom embroidered logo, Break the Cycle hat. I'm trying to, it's not doing the thing, but it's cool, I promise you. Also, this Wear the Mask shirt. And, of course, if you want to have your own piece of the CouchStreams set, you can get this awesome custom Break the Cycle pillow for your couch at home. We can all cuddle the same pillow while we watch my show. I know that's cool for you. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. Of course, anthemplanning.com, executive producers of the show. Please check these people out. See what they can do for your business. Emergency and crisis planning. They're amazing. They're doing a job that the government sucks at, but will force themselves on you. This company will not do that. They will do it more efficiently and for a much cheaper price. Let's see who we got coming on the show next week. I have this. I don't have the graphics yet. So on Tuesday, I'm going to have Davey Parrish from the Friendship Simulator. Used to be the Burning Boots podcast. Wednesday, we'll have the chair of the Oklahoma Libertarian Party, Kevin Hobie, on. Good friend of mine. I'm excited to have him on. He calls himself the left libertarian, so we're going to challenge him on a few things there. And then on Friday, we're going to have the man Adam Kokesh on. I haven't talked to Adam in a while, so I'm pretty excited to see what he's up to these days. His hair's been looking pretty wild, so it's going to be pretty neat. And if you guys can, please support the show financially, man. Check it out. Really cheap tiers, monthly thing. You won't even miss it. It's the price of a Starbucks. At patreon.com/breakthecyclejs. Or if you hate Patreon like most libertarians do because they're a little yeedy, you can check out subscribestar.com/breakthecyclejs. Same tiers, same perks. You'll get into an awesome Discord server with like 55 really cool people, executive producers of the show. I always dig into the Discord to ask for questions for our guests, so you guys will have a direct line to me to ask questions of guests that you know are coming up. Also, you can join as a member of this channel. I just got a file with all of the really cool Break the Cycle custom badges for all of you wonderful people who are always in my chat. Top Lobster drew them, so you will get to show off those awesome badges if you become a member of the show in your chat soon. I will see you guys on Tuesday for my show. But until then, don't forget to break the cycle.
Due to legal reasons, I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just meant it in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Well, Chipper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force, unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing I mean, you know it. No product theaters cause they closed for COVID.